They yanked her from the plane like she was a criminal. Security guards clamping her arms, barking orders, while passengers gawked in stunned silence. No questions, no explanations, just a black woman in a hoodie, her first-class boarding pass dismissed like it was fake. But Dr. Nia Thompson wasn't just any traveler. She held the power to greenlight or gut a $4 billion airline deal. Who was this woman? Why did she stay so calm? And what happens when the person you disgrace can unravel your company's future? Keep watching to see justice land where it's least expected. The humid Atlanta dawn clung to Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport at 6:15 a.m., where the terminal hummed with the chaos of early travelers. Businessmen in crisp suits darting to gates, families wrestling oversized suitcases. Dr. Nia Thompson, 38, stood quietly in the priority boarding line for Flight 892 to Chicago, her gray hoodie, leggings, and scuffed sneakers blending into the crowd. Her only accessory, a worn leather satchel, hung lightly over her shoulder, unremarkable yet heavy with purpose. Nia, a financial strategist and Apex Capital board member, held sway over a $4 billion investment in Horizon Airlines expansion, a fact her unassuming appearance concealed. Raised in Atlanta's working-class projects, she learned early to navigate scrutiny with a calm resolve, a skill honed through years of being underestimated. Her PhD in economics, earned at 26, and a reputation for turning around failing companies had landed her on Apex's board, where she now audited Horizon's culture incognito before approving their funding. Expecting smooth passage as a first-class passenger, Nia stepped forward, presenting her digital boarding pass. The gate agent, Tara, a young woman with a practiced smile, froze briefly, her eyes narrowing. "This lane's for priority only," Tara muttered, her tone laced with doubt despite the pass clearly marking seat 2. Nia's voice stayed even. "I know." Tara scanned the code, her smile tightening as she waved Nia through, but not before a sidelong glance to a colleague, as if confirming a suspicion. Behind Nia, a stream of mostly white passengers in tailored blazers and polished loafers glided through without a second look, their privilege unquestioned. The contrast stung, but Nia's face betrayed nothing. She'd grown used to the weight of assumptions trailing her like a shadow. Her childhood in public housing, where scholarships were her lifeline, taught her to move through spaces where she wasn't expected to belong. Now she carried that lesson into boardrooms and airports alike, her quiet strength a shield against the world's misjudgments. Today's trip wasn't just a flight, it was a test. Apex had tasked Nia with observing Horizon's operations firsthand, to see how they treated those they didn't deem important. Her satchel held a sealed folder marked Apex Confidential, containing the terms of the deal that could reshape the airline's future. As she approached the gate, Tara's colleague whispered just loud enough for Nia to hear, "Probably used points for that seat." Nia kept walking, her sneakers soft against the terminal's polished floor, but she cataloged the slight. It wasn't new. Her rise from a scholarship kid to a financial powerhouse had always drawn skepticism. People saw her hoodie, her black skin, her lack of flash, and assumed she didn't belong. But Nia didn't need to prove herself with designer bags or loud protests. Her power lay in her silence, her knowledge, her ability to wait. As she reached gate C7, she took a seat in the corner, her satchel beside her, and watched the crowd. The terminal's fluorescent lights buzzed faintly, mirroring the tension already simmering. Nia knew this flight would reveal more than Horizon's in-flight service. It would show their values, their biases, their blind spots. And she was ready to measure them all, one quiet moment at a time, before deciding if they deserved the future she held in her hands. The terminal's hum faded as Dr. Nia Thompson stepped into the priority boarding line, her leather satchel slung over her shoulder, but the gate agent, Tara, cast a skeptical glance her way. "Probably a points ticket," Tara whispered to a colleague, her voice just loud enough for Nia to catch, assuming her first-class status was a fluke. Nia's face remained unreadable, her calm a practiced shield from years of navigating spaces that questioned her presence. At security, an agent rifled through her satchel, pausing at a sealed folder marked Apex Confidential. "This looks important for someone like you," he smirked, his tone dripping with condescension. Nia's reply was even, "It's work-related," and she was waved through. But the pattern of scrutiny was unmistakable, a quiet jab at her existence in a space deemed too elite for her. Boarding flight 892 to Chicago, Nia settled into seat 2B, her hoodie blending into the plush first-class cabin. The flight attendant, Marcus, a wiry man with a clipped smile, moved through the aisle, offering water bottles to rows 1 and 3, but skipping Nia's row entirely. She caught his eye and politely asked, "May I have some water?" Marcus hesitated, his pause deliberate. "I'll check if we have extras," he said, then handed a complimentary coffee to the white businessman in 2A with a warm nod. Nia's fingers brushed the satchel at her feet, noting the slight, her silence louder than any protest. The businessman sipped his coffee, oblivious, while Nia cataloged the moment, her composure a steel thread holding the tension taut. The cabin lights dimmed as the plane climbed, but the slights kept coming, each one sharper. Marcus returned, his expression now edged with authority, and leaned toward Nia. "Ma'am, there's a seating error. We need you to move to 18C for weight distribution." Nia pulled up her boarding pass on her phone, the screen clearly showing 2B. "This is my seat," she said calmly, her voice steady as stone. Marcus's tone hardened. "Compliance is required for safety." A passenger in 3A, a middle-aged woman in a blazer, muttered, "Just move, lady," her voice carrying the weight of entitlement. Nia's eyes flicked to her, then back to Marcus. But she didn't budge, her restraint fueling a simmering suspense that prickled the air. The cabin buzzed with whispers, passengers glancing her way, some curious, others annoyed, as if her presence disrupted their carefully ordered world. Nia leaned back, her satchel's weight grounding her, and let the moment pass, knowing each slight was a thread in a larger pattern she'd been sent to unravel. An hour later, as she returned from the lavatory, the tension snapped. Marcus, standing near the galley, spoke into his radio, his voice low but clear. "Uncooperative passenger in 2B." Nia's steps slowed, her heart steady despite the sting. The plane was on a brief layover in Charlotte, and as the boarding door opened, two security officers stepped into the cabin, their badges gleaming under the fluorescent lights. "Dr. Thompson?" the taller one asked, his tone professional but cold. "We need you to step off the plane." Passengers craned their necks, some pulling out phones, recording the spectacle. The officers flanked Nia, one gripping her arm tightly, his voice sharp. "Don't make this harder." Nia clutched her satchel, her face a mask of calm, and walked down the aisle, the weight of every stare pressing against her. The jet bridge echoed with their footsteps as they led her to a small holding room off the terminal, its gray walls and single desk stark under harsh lighting. A supervisor, Karen, sat waiting, her blazer crisp, her expression one of rehearsed neutrality. "Dr. Thompson," Karen began, glancing at a tablet, "your boarding pass flagged as irregular. These upgrades happen sometimes. We need to verify." The implication of fraud hung heavy, her words cloaked in corporate politeness, but sharp with accusation. Nia's voice remained level. "My ticket was purchased through Apex Capital. Check the reservation." Karen's fingers tapped the tablet, her eyes narrowing as if searching for a glitch to justify the intrusion. "It's likely a system error," she said, but her tone suggested otherwise, as if Nia's presence in first class was the real mistake. Nia sat still, her satchel on her lap, the sealed folder inside a silent testament to her purpose. She'd expected this. Her incognito audit for Apex was meant to expose exactly this kind of bias, the kind that didn't shout but whispered through skip services and questioning glances. Back on the plane, Marcus had resumed his duties, his smile returning for other passengers, while the businessman in 2A scrolled his phone, unbothered by the scene he'd witnessed. Nia, in the holding room, noted Karen's quick glances at the door, as if expecting backup to reinforce her authority. The officers stood by, one checking his radio, the other shifting his weight, their presence a quiet threat. "You were reported for disruptive behavior," Karen continued, her voice tighter now, "refusing to move seats, questioning crew instructions." Nia tilted her head slightly. "I refuse to leave my assigned seat." "Is that disruptive?" Karen hesitated, her tablet screen glowing with Nia's reservation, but she pressed on. Your movements in the cabin cause concern. Nia's lips twitched, not quite a smile. My movements or my existence? The question hung, unanswered, as Karen's fingers froze on the tablet. The room's air thickened, the silence amplifying the weight of Nia's words. She didn't raise her voice, didn't need to. Her calm was a blade, cutting through the flimsy veneer of protocol. The officers exchanged a glance, sensing the shift but unsure why. Karen cleared her throat, doubling down. We have to follow procedure. Your ticket's origin is unclear. Sometimes vouchers get misused. Nia leaned forward, her eyes locking onto Karen's. You mean my presence is unclear? Let's be honest. The supervisor flinched but didn't respond, her authority fraying under Nia's unflinching gaze. The pattern was clear now. Each slight, from Tara's whisper to Marcus's radio call, was a brick in a wall built to exclude her. Nia's silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy, a catalog of every misstep Horizon's staff had made. She knew this wasn't about a ticket or a seat. It was about a system that saw her skin, her hoodie, her quiet confidence, and decided she didn't belong. As the holding room's clock ticked, Nia's fingers rested on her satchel, the folder inside holding the power to upend everything. The officers' radios crackled with static, and Karen's tablet pinged with an incoming message. But Nia's focus never wavered. She was here to test Horizon's culture, and they were failing spectacularly, each action tightening the noose around their own future. The room felt smaller now, the weight of their assumptions pressing back on them, and Nia's calm presence loomed larger with every passing second, her silence a promise of the reckoning to come. In the stark holding room, Karen leaned forward, her tablet glowing with Nia's reservation, her voice sharp with accusation. Dr. Thompson, explain why you're in first class. These mix-ups happen. Nia, unshaken, opened her leather satchel and slid a sleek ID card across the table, its Apex Capital logo glinting under the fluorescent light. Scan it, she said, her tone calm but commanding. Karen hesitated, her fingers trembling slightly as she scanned the QR code. The screen flared. Dr. Nia Thompson, Apex Capital Board, Fiduciary Authority Level 7. Karen's face drained of color, her eyes darting from the screen to Nia, who sat still, her hoodie and sneakers now a stark contrast to the power radiating from her. I'm the deciding vote on Apex's $4 billion investment in Horizon Airlines, Nia said, her voice steady, cutting through the room like a blade. This trip was an audit to test your culture. You've shown me exactly what I needed to see. Karen stammered, This must be a mistake. Nia's gaze didn't waver. The mistake was assuming I didn't belong. The security officers flanking the desk exchanged uneasy glances, their radios silent, their authority shrinking under the weight of Nia's words. Karen tried to backtrack, her voice faltering. We're so sorry, Dr. Thompson. We didn't know. Nia cut her off, her tone cool but final. Apologies don't fix systems. She pulled out her phone, tapped an app, and triggered an alert to Apex's compliance team, flagging the incident for immediate review. The room's atmosphere shifted, the air thick with the realization that they'd targeted someone who could unravel Horizon's future. The officers stepped back, one fidgeting with his badge, while Karen's tablet pinged with an incoming message she didn't dare open. Nia's calm, evident from the moment Tara whispered at the gate, her sealed folder marked Apex Confidential, her ease with protocol, all of it now snapped into place. She'd been testing them, and they'd failed. Her earlier restraint, her refusal to leave 2B, her quiet cataloging of every slight, had built to this moment. Nia leaned forward, her voice low, deliberate. I didn't come to fly first class. I came to decide if you get to keep flying. The words landed like a thunderclap, the cathartic punch the room didn't see coming. Karen's mouth opened, but no words followed, her authority crumbling under Nia's unyielding presence. The officers shifted, one muttering into his radio, but the response was static, as if the system itself was scrambling to catch up. Nia's phone buzzed, a confirmation from Apex. Audit initiated. Her satchel, still on her lap, held the folder that could halt Horizon's expansion, a power she'd carried silently through every microaggression. The room felt smaller now, Karen's tablet a useless shield against the truth. Nia stood, her movements deliberate, her hoodie no longer a mark of invisibility, but a symbol of her understated strength. She didn't gloat. She didn't need to. The officer's uneasy glances and Karen's faltering apologies were proof enough. They'd underestimated the wrong woman. As Nia prepared to leave, her phone lit up again. Apex compliance team already pulling data from Horizon systems. The power dynamic had flipped, and the consequences were just beginning to ripple through the airline's fragile future. Dr. Nia Thompson stepped out of the holding room, her leather satchel slung over her shoulder, leaving Karen frozen at the desk, her tablet still glowing with the truth of Nia's identity. Within hours, Horizon Airlines' legal team received a notice from Apex Capital. The $4 billion funding deal was on hold, pending a full cultural audit. Marcus, the flight attendant who'd skipped Nia's water and radioed for security, and Karen, the supervisor who'd implied fraud, were suspended without ceremony. The entire Flight 892 crew was reassigned to low-tier regional routes, their first-class privileges stripped, an internal memo citing protocol violations and discriminatory behavior. The news spread through Horizon's back channels like wildfire, each word a spark of consequence. Nia, now in the terminal's VIP lounge, sat alone, her hoodie blending into the sleek leather chairs. The lounge's glass walls framed the runway, where planes taxied in orderly rows, a facade of efficiency hiding the chaos her actions had unleashed. She reflected on the day, her mind drifting to her younger self in Atlanta's projects, navigating school hallways where teachers assumed she'd never rise above her circumstances. The fight wasn't new. Bias had always worn a mask, whether in skeptical glances or outright dismissals. I should feel victorious, she thought, her fingers tracing the satchel's worn edge. But change doesn't come from one signature. Her calm exterior hid a quiet exhaustion, a human weight that grounded her power. She wasn't a superhero. She was a woman who'd learned to carry the world's misjudgments without breaking. Nia opened her phone, authorizing Apex to launch a diversity and accountability review across Horizon's operations. She demanded mandatory retraining for all staff and a public report detailing discriminatory incidents, ensuring the airline couldn't bury its failures. Her final act was a memo to Horizon's CEO, typed with deliberate precision. Fix your culture or lose your future. The words weren't a threat but a promise, backed by her authority as the deciding vote on Apex's investment. Back at Horizon's headquarters, executives scrambled, their boardroom buzzing with panic as they realized the funding they'd banked on was slipping away. The memo landed like a guillotine, its clarity cutting through their excuses. Nia's actions weren't revenge. They were a reckoning, a demand for systemic change that echoed beyond one flight. She leaned back, watching a plane climb into the sky, its lights blinking against the dusk. The victory felt hollow, not because she doubted her impact, but because she knew the system's roots ran deep, twisting through every gate, cabin, and corporate office. Change required more than a single stand. It demanded persistence, vigilance, a refusal to let silence be mistaken for acceptance. Nia's phone buzzed with a confirmation from Apex. The audit was underway, Horizon's records already being pulled for review. She didn't smile, but her resolve hardened, a quiet fire burning beneath her calm. The lessons of the day crystallized in her mind. Systemic bias persists, she realized, not in loud slurs, but in subtle protocols. Skipped services, whispered assumptions, flags on boarding passes. Power lies in restraint, her calm exposing the flaws of those who underestimated her, turning their aggression into their own undoing. Change requires action, not just individual wins, but reforms that reshape systems, ensuring accountability outlives the moment. Above all, Nia's confidence in her own worth, unshaken by Tara's whispers or Marcus's radio call, had empowered her to act decisively, her identity a shield no one could pierce. As she stood to leave the lounge, her satchel lighter now, Nia glanced at the terminal's bustle. Passengers hurrying, staff typing, the world moving as if nothing had changed. But something had. Horizon's culture was under a microscope, its future tied to her signature, and every employee from gate to galley would feel the ripple of her presence. She walked toward the executive exit, her steps steady, her hoodie no longer a mark of invisibility, but a badge of her strength. This wasn't just her story. It was every moment someone's judged before they're known. Have you faced a moment like this, where you were dismissed or underestimated? Share it in the comments below. Where are you watching from? Atlanta, Chicago, or somewhere else entirely? Hit subscribe to join us in unpacking stories that challenge the status quo, stories that demand we look deeper, question harder, and fight smarter. Let's demand better together, because justice doesn't shout. It lands steady and undeniable, just like Nia did today. Nia's story isn't just a personal triumph. It's a reminder that every sidelong glance, every unjust act leaves a mark, and sometimes the person dismissed holds the power to reshape a system. Have you ever been misjudged or overlooked? What moment made you want to stand tall? Drop your story in the comments. We're listening. Where are you watching from? Hit that like button and subscribe to X Daily Stories for more tales that inspire, challenge, and spark change. Let's amplify these voices together.